Hello everybody and welcome here to my special video that I do every single year on my YouTube channel, the Premier League predictions. Hello everybody and welcome here to my special video that I do every single year on my YouTube channel, the Premier League predictions. And lots of people looking forward to seeing where I predict you guys at the end of this season. A bit like Christmas on revealing what you get for Christmas. The exact same thing right here, right now on this Premier League predictions. And I'm going to be working myself from the bottom of the table and work my way up to the top of the table on which of your teams will finish by the end of this campaign, in my prediction, in my opinion, who I think out of the 20 teams will be in which position by the end of the 38 matches for next May in 2020-25. And now, let's get to the predictions and start from 20th position of the Premier League right now. We'll start things first in 20th place in my predictions of the Premier League. And I'm going to go for Ipswich Town, the Tractor Boys. Ipswich Town will be going straight back down to the Championship. And here's why. It's been a very big jump for Kieran McKenna's team. From playing against Forest Green Rovers a cold Tuesday night in League One, all the way to playing against Man City at the Etihad Stadium and Liverpool also in the first two games of the season. It's going to be a very big ask for Ipswich from going from League One to the Premier League for a quick period of time. And look what happened to Luton. Went from non-league to the Premier League. And the exact same thing's going to happen for Ipswich in my opinion. They haven't signed any, let's say, experienced Premier League players for Ipswich, the Tractor Boys. Because Ipswich obviously signed Amari Hutchinson for 20 million from Chelsea. They got a free transfer for Ben Johnson to West Ham United. And also got obviously Liam Delap from Man City. And also goalkeeper Muric from Burnley. And I don't think they're very convinced enough, the Tractor Boys, they're going to do it. And I think that they will be heading straight back down to the Championship, unfortunately. So I know Kieran McKenna as well, speaking about him, he had a very, let's say, a good time at United in terms of assistant role, learning the skills to become a manager under, obviously, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and also under, as well, Michael Carrick as well, when he left and was sacked in 2021. So he's got a bit of experience, Kieran McKenna. There was also talks of him leaving Ipswich Town to manage maybe Chelsea as their permanent boss. But since he said he agreed a new contract for another 4 seasons for Ipswich, I think they'd be very happy. They're keeping him as the manager for this campaign. But I don't think that Ipswich will actually survive this season. They might have a really brilliant history, Ipswich, who won the UEFA Cup, or back then was the Europa League in 1981, under their manager at the time, Sir Bobby Robson. And that was a long time ago, that was. And they had a very, let's say, brilliant 5th place position in the 2000 and 2001 season. And the year after that, they got relegated in 2002. And 22 years later, they're back in the Premier League. And the team will be joining Ipswich Town to get themselves back down to the Championship again will be Southampton. Southampton's got a very different team on comparison to the Southampton went down in 2023. They had to bring some, let's say, different inexperienced players when they went down to the Championship, because most of their Premier League players, like James Ward-Prowse's example, left and joined West Ham, and a few other players also left, like Lavia as well, from last season. But Russell Martins brought a bit of belief into the Southampton team and got themselves promoted back to the Premier League. And I know Southampton did quite well on winning the playoffs and beating Leeds in the final at Wembley Stadium to win that game by 1-0 by a goal from Adam Armstrong. That's only one player is very experienced in the Premier League in the past. And we know that Che Adams, his obviously striker partnership, left Southampton, as he's now going to join now the Italian side Torino for this season for them. And unfortunately, that was a very big loss, I think, in my opinion, to see Che Adams leave Southampton to go and play for Torino in Italy. But the good news for Southampton, they signed back Finn Downes in a permanent transfer signing back to Southampton. He was a very brilliant player and responsible on actually bringing Southampton back into the Premier League. And they even signed also their ex-Southampton player in the past, Adam Lallana. he is getting on now. He's probably 36, 37 years old. He is getting on. I think he's probably going to do his coaching badges at Southampton. And he's signed as well in the transfer window as well. And also signed Charlie Taylor from Burnley. And signed also the Diaz, Brenton Diaz from Villarreal. Was actually a Sheffield United player. He was on loan from last season. Has also signed a permanent deal as well for St Mary's side, Southampton, in this season. But I don't think Southampton's got enough about them if they're going to stay in the league like they were in the last 12 consecutive seasons. So I'm going to go for Southampton to go down in 19th place, with Ipswich sent back to the Championship. The team will finish 18th place to fulfil the relegation zone. It's not going to be Leicester. It's going to be Nottingham Forest. Will be the ones will be going down to the Championship. And here's why. Nottingham Forest had 3 consecutive seasons in the Premier League since being promoted in 2022 in the playoffs against Huddersfield Town, when Steve Cooper brought them back into the Premier League for the first time in 23 years. But we know it's been 3 seasons, and Forest were the better team out of the other 3 who went down last season, such as Luton, Sheffield United and Burnley. They've probably had a bit more about them to scrape it and survive in 17th place. But this season, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Nottingham Forest will be heading down to the Championship with Southampton and also with Ipswich Town. They've signed only a couple players in the transfer market. They also signed Elliot Anderson from Newcastle United, and also signed Medakovic from Fiorentina, and also Jota Silva as well, a young player playing for Nottingham Forest also for this season. But they've still got some very good strikers up front, such as obviously Chris Wood, and also as well Taiwan Awangi as well up front for Forest. Might bring a little bit of striking force up front. Also Anthony Alanga and also Callum Hudson-Odoi. But personally, defensively, they're a little bit shaky. They were last season. They were when they almost went down. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to go down in 18th position. I think it's really now in the coffin for them. Look at what happened to Leeds United when they got promoted after 16 years away from the Premier League. 3 seasons in the Premier League. They came 9th the first season. The second year they came 17th and they survived. And the year after they got relegated in 19th position. But as for Forest, however, I think that pattern's going to be the exact same thing for them as well. Like Leeds in a way. Do well in terms of surviving the 2 straight seasons, but the 3rd season will be a bit too much for Nottingham Forest. So I think that they will be heading down to the Championship and 18th place for this season. Sorry Forest, but I think you will be the ones who will be going down with Southampton and Ipswich to the Championship. The team will survive the drop will be Nottingham Forest's Midlands rivals Leicester City. The team got back to the Premier League after a year's absent away from the Premiership after being relegated in 2022 and 23's campaign. And here's why I think Leicester will finish in 17th place. We all know behind their heads they've got a point deduction. It could happen this season due to breaking financial fair play rules when they were in the Premier League in the past. But that's also really put them in real bad positions for this season, back in the Premier League, to actually get their points deducted this season. And that might even play a part in terms of where Leicester will finish, in terms of where I put them at the moment. But the only thing that I feel Leicester City will survive the most, comparison to, let's say, Nottingham Forest, Southampton and Ipswich, they've got some Premier League experience in their team, such as Wilfred Ndidi, Jamie Vardy. You've also got as well Vestergaard, obviously Ricardo Pereira as well. You also got Conor Cody, Harry Winks, you name it. Very Premier League experienced in their team. And with the experience in their team will probably be enough, I think, for Leicester City to actually scrape the drop and survive in 17th position. They're going to have a hard season, Leicester. This is not the Leicester City team like before when they actually won the league in 2016, or the team who were in the top 10 every single year. This Leicester City team's a lot different in terms of what's happened to them when they were relegated. I think they're going to be a team who are going to scrape it this season in 17th place for Leicester at this campaign for the 24 and 25 season. My Premier League prediction, who will come 16th place in the Premier League, I'm going to go for Bournemouth to come 16th. And I could have put Bournemouth in 13th place, higher up than 16th, but since they lost Dominic Solanke, I'm going to have to replace, I think, between Brentford and Bournemouth's predictions. But I think that now Bournemouth will drop down to 16th. But they've still got a good team though. They've still got belief in their squad they can actually survive. They've got also a billionaire, Bill Foley. He's obviously invested a lot into the Bournemouth team in terms of, changing the club around, their fortunes around after losing Eddie Howe and also losing that Russian billionaire who actually made Bournemouth into a top Premier League team before he took over as the owner of Bournemouth. And I've got to say, they've still got some good players in their team, though, still. Even though they lost Dominic Solanke to go and join Spurs as we speak. We know that obviously you've got Max Aarons as well in their team. You've also got the experienced Adam Smith. I don't know if you play many games, though. You've got Tyler Adams as well. Philip Bling in their team as well. Up front, you also got Justin Kluivert, who scored a few goals last season. And also Luis Sinstiera also in the striking position for Bournemouth. And also their new striker they signed, the Turkish forward they signed is Enes Unai. And he signed obviously from Getafe. And hopefully for him, maybe this could be a time for him to fulfill the boots of Dominic Solanke and score maybe 19 goals if he could do that at this new season coming for Bournemouth. But I've got to say, it'd be a very, very difficult season, I think it's going to be for the Bournemouth team after Dominic Solanke left. Because who's going to replace him? Who's going to be the man who's going to be the main figure for the Bournemouth team to be the ones to actually scrape survival or get survival? Because I predict Bournemouth in the last 2 seasons in the relegation zone, but I think Bournemouth's got enough, in my opinion, that they're going to stay in the league. But I think they're going to finish 16th now. They could have finished higher if they kept Dominic Solanke, but since he's left, I think that they're going to drop down to 16th in my predictions. And that's my prediction for Bournemouth, 16th place. The team I predict in 15th place, to finish 15th by the end of the season, I'm going to go for Wolverhampton Wanderers to come 15th. I know that last season, Gary O'Neill put Wolves in 14th place, but this is a different Wolves team. This Wolves team is not a Wolves team to compete for Europa League football, like what Nuno did, from pushing this team from being promoted in the Championship in 2018 and get them into Europe consecutively straight after what happened when they got promoted this season before. I think this Wolves team's a lot different now in terms of where they are as an identity as a club. I think they're more of a team that more defensive, hard to beat in a way. They've still got some very good players such as Wang Hee-Chang up front. You've got Craig Dawson in defence, is also brilliant for Wolverhampton Wanderers. You've got captain Mario Lemina as well. Matt Doherty is also experienced at Wolves for so many years. And also Jose Sarr in goal for the Wolves team. But we know that Wolverhampton Wanderers, I think that for my opinions in this prediction, 15th place will be for them. I just don't think that Wolves have got the qualities to actually finish a little bit higher than 15th place. So I'm going to go 15th Wolves. They will survive this season. They've got enough about them to survive over Forest, Southampton and Ipswich. So I'm going to go for Wolves to come 15th in this Premier League predictions. The team I put in 14th place in the Premier League, I put Sean Dyche's Everton. Sean Dyche's Everton will survive this season. They had a very, very hardship from last campaign. They had point deductions left, right and centre. And we all thought one point in the season that Everton's Premier League status after 70 years in the top flight of English football may came to an end, but it didn't come to an end because Everton kept believing and they survived in 15th place. The biggest blow for Everton, they sold Onana to Aston Villa for 50 million, but they had to sell a few players due to financial fair play rules, and also they got a new stadium coming out in 2025 at the Bradley Moore Dock. And this will be their last season at Goodison Park. It'd be sad if Everton go down to the Championship in their last season at the good old Goodison Park Stadium. Because if they go down this season, that'll be, 50,000 seater at the Bradley Moore Dock in the Championship for next season. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Everton's got more about them to survive. Sean Dyche is the manager. If Sean Dyche left Everton, then Everton are absolutely fucked. They'll be having no manager in terms of anyone like Sean Dyche to keep Everton in the Premier League. And luckily for them, they've got Sean Dyche, and I reckon they'll come 14th in the league. They also signed Ndoye from Marseille, a guy who actually played for Sheffield United, actually, and he was responsible on bringing Sheffield United back into the Premier League. But I don't really feel convinced that he's the answer for Everton, however. But they still got Jordan Pickford, the England goalkeeper, Doucouré as well, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Hopefully don't sell any of those players before the summer window ends, because those players could actually keep Everton in the league in terms of experience in their team. But I do put Everton in 14th place, and they'll stay in the Premier League in their new stadium in the Bradley Moore Dock in 14th place in my prediction by May of next year. The team that I predict in 13th place of the Premier League, I'm going to go for Brentford. Brentford will be in 13th position. I had a little bit of a debate about whether or not I've put Brentford in 16th place and Bournemouth in 13th position, but I've decided that Brentford will come 13th. They've kept Ivan Toney. Dominic Solanke left Bournemouth to join Spurs. I thought, obviously, Ivan Toney would leave Brentford to go to Spurs. But since Dominic Solanke could probably be the most main striker for the Spurs team, I do think that Brentford now is lifting a little bit higher than Bournemouth in 13th position. They have signed another striker, the name of Igor Thiago from Club Brugge for 30 million. And he has scored lots of goals in the Belgian league, and that's why Thomas Frank signed him for 30 million. And could it be the answer, maybe? If Tony ends up leaving, maybe, you never know, in the transfer market, he might go to Arsenal, he might go to, Man City, who actually knows on that? They might have Thiago, maybe the man to cover Ivan Toney if he ends up obviously leaving before the transfer window ends at the start of September. But I do think that Brentford are the team will be in the league for another campaign. I do think they've got enough about them to stay up, and that's why I put Brentford in 13th place. The team that I put in 12th place in the Premier League this season, I put Brentford's West London rivals Fulham above them in the league. Well, Fulham had very, very good business in the transfer window so far. They signed Emile Smith-Rowe, our Arsenal boy, for 27 million to join Fulham Football Club. And I've got to say, he will have a bright future at Fulham, in my opinion, because he scored already 3 or 4 goals in pre-season for Fulham Football Club so far. I've seen it on Instagram. He scored a couple in his American tour for Fulham. But as for him and also for the Fulham team, I do think that they're going to be the ones that are going to be around 12th position in the league. The only big blow Fulham actually had during the summer is sold João Paulina to join Bayern Munich for 42 million. And that's probably a big blow in that defensive midfield. But apart from that, they've still got a good team. They've still got some very good players to actually keep them in the Premier League. I don't think they're going to be flirting around relegation. There's a lot of bookies and people saying that Fulham's going to be down there. But I think they've got enough about them to be finishing a little bit higher than the relegation drop. So I think 12th position is more appropriate in my prediction for Fulham to come 12th by the end of this season. To wrap up the bottom half of the table in my predictions of the Premier League, I put Brighton Hove Albion in 11th place in the Premiership. Lots of changes of management during the summer period. Roberto De Zerbi left Brighton to join French side Marseille, and they signed a young German manager, 31 years of age, and some of the Brighton players like James Milner, for example, is a little bit older compared to this man right here. Fabian Hertzer, a man who got St. Pauli promoted into the Bundesliga last season, and that was probably a big gamble for Brighton Hove Albion to actually appoint him as manager for Brighton Hove Albion. But you can't underestimate the ownership and the direction of behind the scenes at Brighton, because they are quite smart on terms of, bringing these unknown quantities, players and managers through the years. And Brighton Hove Albion have not even struggled in terms of gamble, in terms of unknown players to scout, from other parts of the world to play for Brighton Hove Albion Football Club, and managers as well, especially like Roberto De Zerbi, and also this man right here, the youngest ever man in the Premier League to manage a football club, Fabian Hertzer. So I really can't wait to see how Brighton do with him in charge as manager for Brighton Hove Albion. But you never know, it might go both ways. It might even struggle this season with this guy, but who knows on that. But I do back Brighton to finish into the 11th position in the bottom half of the table. In 11th position, Brighton Hove Albion. And that is my prediction here going into this season. So the team that I predict in 10th place in the Premier League, they're a very funny side there when it comes to terms of where they finish. It's West Ham United. I'm putting West Ham in the top 10 in the top half of the table of the Premier League. Lots of changes in the summer, such as David Moyes, after 5 years as manager for West Ham came to an end this season. A lot of fans wanted it to happen. They wanted David Moyes to leave because he's been there for a while. He might have won them the Conference League in 2023, but West Ham want another picture, another manager, another page at West Ham's history. And they got Julien Lopetegui. I really felt sorry for Julien Lopetegui when he left Wolverhampton Wanderers. Actually walked out before the season begun last campaign, and that was due with financial fair play rules that Wolves couldn't give him the money in terms of what he wanted and that. But West Ham United look like they backed him in the transfer market, such as Nicholas Füllkrug for Borussia Dortmund. A brilliant season he had at Borussia Dortmund last season. He got them into a Champions League final as a striker and had a very perfect Euro for Germany as well. He scored a few goals for the German team in the Euros this year as well, and he's signed for 27 million. They've signed Somerville, the Dutch left winger from Leeds United, for 25 million. They've signed also Max Kilman from Wolverhampton Wanderers, and also Wes Foderingham, the goalkeeper for Sheffield United, for free for West Ham as well this season. They also sold a few players also, such as obviously Finn Downs to West Ham, Saïd Benrahma to Lyon. If they want to make a good squad out of maybe competing for European football, you've got to make these sacrifices. And that's what West Ham are trying to do right here. Sell your best players, bring in your best players. And that's what Julien Lopetegui is trying to do here by backing by the ownership for West Ham to give him the money to actually spend on those players. But I do think that West Ham might drop a little bit, and I think they'll be 10th position this season in the 24 and 25's campaign. So who I predict in 9th position in the Premier League? I'm going to put Crystal Palace in 9th. They're going to have a brilliant season under Crystal Palace, under their manager, Oliver Grasner. The biggest blow that Crystal Palace actually had was actually selling Michael Olise to Bayern Munich for 50 million. But they have got also Ismail Sarr, the former Watford right winger, is also signed from Marseille to join Crystal Palace for 12 million. And you cannot underestimate in terms of what they've sold, in terms of selling, obviously, Olise to Bayern Munich. They've got Eze still, and he'll be a real major part for Palace in terms of them to try and push for a top 9 finish by the end of this season. And Oliver Grasner is a very good coach, a very decent manager, and he did quite well by, replacing Roy Hodgson when he was sacked during February when they were lurking around the relegation drop. And then when he took over from Roy Hodgson, he got some great results for the Palace team and got themselves up to 10th in the league. And that was a very good finish for, obviously, Oliver Grasner's Palace. And I think this season, they might get one step further up to 9th place, I think. Palace, 9th position. That's what I'm going for. They've got a good Austrian coach. I thought it was German, actually. He's got a good Austrian coach, a guy that won the Europa League for Frankfurt. A pedigree manager, knows what he's doing, and I think that they have a very perfect season under him. They might miss out European football, but 9th position is for me for Crystal Palace. 9th place. The team I predict in 8th position to miss out the European positions will be Aston Villa. Villa's squad is a lot smaller on comparison to Liverpool, City and Arsenal's. Unai Emery's Villa will miss out on European football this season. Look what happened to Newcastle. They came 4th in the Champions League positions a couple seasons ago. That season after, they missed out and came 4th in the group stages. The Champions League format is a lot different this year. It's not 32 teams, it's 36 teams. You've got to play 8 games you've got to play. And that's going to be a real big ask for Aston Villa if they've got any chances on getting out of that group by the end or around December time when the group stages end of, was it group stages? I'm not really sure if it's the group stages, but you know what I mean in terms of the new format of the UEFA Champions League. They have signed a few players. They had to sign these players because we all know that Villa want to be a team to actually have a good squad for the Premier League and a good squad for the Champions League. They signed Cameron Archer for Sheffield United. They've signed also Chelsea left back Ian Marston. Not had many games with Chelsea. Played for Burnley, was known for way back in the 2022-2023 season. They've signed Ross Barkley for 5 million from Luton Town. His career's getting back on track, of course, after having a very poor, let's say, not many games at all as a Chelsea player in his Chelsea days. And he's also signed for, obviously, for 5 million after a brilliant season at Luton Town. They also signed Onana for 50 million from Everton, and they are making the changes. They are making the moves in the transfer market, and Unai Emery has to do that if he's got any guarantee, if they've got any good chances of hope to get themselves in a European position this season coming, and also doing well in the UEFA Champions League with a new format they've got coming with 8 games played until you get to the knockout phases. But the biggest blow for Aston Villa is selling 2 good players. Douglas Luiz to Juventus and also Moussa Diaby to Saudi Arabian side El Ittihad as well. That was a very big blow because obviously Moussa Diaby had a very good season last season for Aston Villa, and also Douglas Luiz had a real brilliant season for Aston Villa as well. So I'm going to put Villa to miss out on European football in 8th place this season in the 24 and 25 campaign. So the team that I predicted in 7th place to finish in the Conference League positions, I'm going to go for Spurs. Tottenham will finish in 7th place. Ange Postecoglou will be in that position by the end of this season for Tottenham Hotspur. What have you actually signed is actually going to scratch my eyeballs and, feel that Dominic Solanke is the only guy who can actually help you guys to get into the UEFA Champions League. Do me a favour. Look what he did at Chelsea. Look what he did at Liverpool before Bournemouth. He was sold because he wasn't good enough to get into the team. And that's why he went to Bournemouth. And okay, he did quite well, scoring 19 goals last season. But is he enough? I don't think so. You got Timo Werner though, back on loan from RB Leipzig. He might be cruising goals maybe for Tottenham Hotspur. But you could have probably maybe signed Ivan Toney, I think. I think Toney might be a decent striker for any team to have. Arsenal, Spurs, City, United, Ivan Toney's the answer. And you go for Dominic Solanke at Bournemouth. What's he going to do? Nothing. I don't think he's going to promise you guys the goals like he did at Bournemouth. So I think that this season you are going to actually finish in 7th position this season. I don't think you're going to get into the top 6 or even the top 4. I think you're going to miss out on that. And I think Big Ange might walk out of Spurs because I do like your manager so much. He actually says it how it is in the press conferences. Even when you wanted Man City to actually beat your team in the last games of the season, he even said that you guys are actually embarrassing. To actually support, Man City against your own club. It's just embarrassing in a way. And if he actually walks out of Spurs, I'll actually pat him on the back because he's a good manager, deserves a lot more rather than Tottenham Hotspur. And they're going to do the exact same old, not win nothing at all. And Dominic Solanke is your answer to replace Harry Kane. I don't think so. I think he'll actually bag maybe 4 goals this season, not even score 19 goals like he did at Bournemouth. There's no pressure at Bournemouth compared to Tottenham. Spurs has pressure, and I think that he will actually fall on that pressure like he did at Liverpool and also what he did at Chelsea, and that's what I think on that. And I'm going to put Spurs in 7th place in my predictions in the 24 and 25 campaign. So the team that I predict in 6th place to finish in 6th by this season will be the famous Manchester United. Will finish in 6th position. Ten Hag had his job saved when he won the FA Cup against Man City. If he lost that final, it'll be another story. It'll be another new manager in charge of United. But since Ten Hag won that matchup, he kept himself alive for another season as United's manager, and he has signed already 2 players at the moment, Xerxes and also Euro from Lille, and also they're looking at buying Ten Hag's very familiar to him at Ajax, Matthias de Ligt is now looks like he is in talks to sign for Manchester United from Bayern Munich. Will be actually quite good for United actually in terms of replacing Varane, who actually left this season. They actually saw a few players have sold, such as Martial, Varane I just mentioned, Mason Greenwood left. Well, he didn't play last season at all due to what he did a couple of seasons ago. And they've still got a very good team. Obviously Bruno Fernandes also signed a new contract as well to stay there till 2028. They also got Garnacho, will hopefully grow a little bit better. Again, like he did last season, he did score a brilliant bicycle kick against Everton last season. And he might have a real shiny season again for United. And also Højlund had a very, let's say, poor start at United last season. And then he did quite well at the end and scored multiple goals. And got a bit of confidence back, he did, by scoring the goals in the second half of the season for Manchester United. They have got a good team to actually be in the Champions League in a couple seasons, I think. I think it's a rebuild for Ten Hag trying to do at the moment. He can win trophies. That's the only thing that I like about Ten Hag. He's won the League Cup that season. The season after that, they win the FA Cup. But they could not maybe retain themselves in the top 4. Now they got to work on that this season. But I don't think they got a strong enough squad on comparison to Newcastle or Chelsea and also Liverpool's squads. So I'm going to put United still missing out on the top 4 in 6th place this season. In 5th position, I predict at the Premier League predictions of this season coming will be Newcastle United will fulfil the Europa League spot in 5th place. Newcastle United got no European football to distract them this season. Last season, it was distractions of the Champions League. But this season, no European football for them to distract them whatsoever. And Eddie Howe, there's a lot of talks about him leaving Newcastle to join England after when Gareth Southgate left after the Euros final. But he did say every time there's media and the press conferences that Eddie Howe wants to stay at Newcastle because he feels that he can deliver a lot more for the Newcastle team. Very good for the Newcastle fans to actually hear that from Eddie Howe. And I do think that they've got a real bright season ahead of them, I think. And they've got no European football to distract them. They've got the resources in terms of ownership as well, like they haven't done in the past under Mike Ashley. And it's their 3rd season for the owners to actually really build Newcastle into a top 6 or 7 best teams in England. But I do put them to miss out on the top 4 in 5th place. The team that I predict in the top 4 of the UEFA Champions League places for this season, I'm going to go for Chelsea to come 4th. They've got another new manager now, Enzo Maresca, a guy actually took Leicester promoted in 1st position last season and got a big job as manager for Chelsea Football Club. Everyone probably will start saying that Chelsea have another poor season now. They're going to sack Enzo Maresca the next 2 or 3 months from now, but I don't think he will. I think he'll stay because he's a very good manager, I think, Maresca, because look what happened at Man City when he was the assistant manager under Pep Guardiola. He learned a lot from Pep. The exact same thing for Mikel Arteta. You know, he learned a lot from him as well. And what Chelsea have to do now is actually give him time. Don't sack him. Don't do what you did with Pochettino. He was a good coach, Pochettino. I thought he could actually push Chelsea into the top 4 this season, actually. But he's obviously not got the job no more. But as of Enzo Maresca now, I think he could do it. I think he will actually put Chelsea in the top 4 for the first time after 2 seasons missing out on the top 4 after poor finishes in the Premier League in the bottom half of the table in 12th position and also last season in 6th position, and they've got themselves a Conference League position for this season also. And they have signed Kieran Dewsbury-Hall from Leicester City. Enzo Maresca is also familiar to him when he played for Leicester last season, got them promoted to the Premier League again, and he'll be a very good part for the Chelsea team this season. And also the striker Cole Palmer. He had a very good season. The top 2 best goal scorers in the Premier League. He came out of nowhere, he did, because he had no game time at Man City. Pep Guardiola decided to get rid of him. Chelsea got him. Chelsea gave him time, gave him a chance, and he scored 20 goals just behind Erling Haaland. And I think that Cole Palmer's going to have a real brilliant season for Chelsea. He even scored in the Euros final for England against Spain as well. And I think that he's going to really push Chelsea and carry them into the top 4 for this season. So I'm going to go for Chelsea and back them to get 4th by the end of this campaign. The team that I predict in 3rd position to qualify for the UEFA Champions League will be Liverpool. Liverpool had a very emotional last season under Jurgen Klopp leaving, walking out of Liverpool after 9 years at the helm. One of the greatest ever managers, one of the greatest managers of all time, and also one of the greatest managers of Liverpool history as well. And it's going to be very hard for Liverpool fans this season to actually get used to Arne Slot, the manager from Feyenoord. And he is quite lucky since he's now signed as manager for Liverpool Football Club to replace Jurgen Klopp, as he's inherited a very good squad he has of 2 sets of teams, big depth in their squad for this season coming, and I don't think there's been any problems on injuries in terms of for Liverpool. If a player gets injured in the starting 11, they've got the bench, and the bench is very strong for Liverpool Football Club. And I've got to say, all thanks for Jurgen Klopp, he actually gave Slot a chance to actually mould his ideas, but into what Klopp inherited in the last 9 seasons as a manager for the Liverpool team. And I do think that they're going to be in 3rd position. And will they slip up maybe this season? Potentially so. You never know. Maybe the standards of Jurgen Klopp's standards might not even work out for Arne Slot. Maybe he might be sacked. You never know. Like what happened to United when Ferguson left in 2013 and David Moyes was manager afterwards, and then he was sacked in April due to the fact that Moyes had a different approach compared to Alex Ferguson at the time. And that could happen for Arne Slot. Who knows on that? But I do back Liverpool to come third in the league, and I think Slot will have a very good season for Liverpool, and I think that Liverpool will come third in the Premier League. Now we are down to two teams. Who will win the Premier League title and who will come second, unfortunately, will slip up and be in second position by the end of the season. I'm an Arsenal supporter, and I've seen Arteta being really brilliant in the last 5-6 seasons since he took over from Unai Emery. Every year, point after more points after more points after more points every single year. And we had 89 points last season. We took it to the last game of the season to Man City. However, for Man City, they've won 5 consecutive Premier League titles in the last 5 seasons. And there's no club, even United, have not won 5 consecutive Premier League titles in the Premier League history. Only Man City are the only team who have done that under Pep Guardiola. We all know that Guardiola's a lot of rumours and talk that Guardiola could be leaving Man City by the end of this season. It's not confirmed yet, but it's been talk about maybe Guardiola could leave Man City and walk out of Man City like what Klopp did last season. If he does, that'd be great. It'll be in terms of maybe competition in the Premiership. But as I am predicting this, and since we've been really improved a lot in terms of our depth and our squad this season, I think we have to do it. I think we have to win the league this season, and I think in our third season competing with Man City, I think Arsenal will be in first place and second place will be Manchester City. And look, why do I put that why do I actually put Arsenal above Man City in the Premier League? It's because we've actually made some good signings. We've got Calafiori signed, a defender, another defender. We've got also Timber, we've got also Calafiori, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko. We are improving our squad. We're making our squad a lot bigger and competitive because we've got the UEFA Champions League to play for, in terms of we've got 8 games to play in the new format of the UEFA Champions League. We're making ourselves a big squad in terms of competing with Man City. But I do think this is going to be our year. I think that we've got, new players coming to the squad, like Leroy Sané could be joining Arsenal from Bayern Munich. There's talks about that, and also that striker from Napoli as well might be also joining Arsenal in the transfer market as well. By the end of the transfer window, could come to an end. We might even buy the young striker from Napoli, Victor Osimhen. Wants to leave Napoli, and there's a lot of big rumours that Osimhen could be signing for Arsenal. He had a very brilliant time at Napoli when he won them the Serie A a couple of seasons ago for Napoli. But he wants to leave due to the fact that Napoli had a very poor season and they missed out playing UEFA Champions League football. And that'd be a good sign for Mikel Arteta if we have a striker like him in the team. Competition between Haaland and Osimhen in terms of who will be maybe the Golden Boot winner, the top goal scorer. And those two players, like I've just said, Osimhen and Haaland, will contribute in their respective teams this season on the race of the Premier League title. But we all know that Man City might have problems this season due to the fact that financial fair play could hit them. And it's been a long time that Man City have actually been cheating in terms of conning a lot of teams and bribing clubs as well, and even bribing the football financial rights as well for the last few years now. And I think that could even help Arsenal in terms of us win the Premier League title by this season. And we are the real team. We are the real team, do it the real way. Man City do it for the money and cheat to win the league, but we do it the right way. And I think Mikel Arteta has got the edge, maybe, for us to win the league here over City at this campaign, at this season here in the Premier League, in my predictions. And that's all we have time for here right now on my Premier League predictions for the 2024 and 25 season. Comment down below who you think will win the league or finish whatever in the Premier League table. And also please like and subscribe for more of this content. I'll be doing more videos, of course, of manager modes and also some player modes for Arsenal in a couple of weeks or maybe next week, and see how I feel on that. But that is it for my predictions here for the Premier League. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon. Peace out. Long dirt road all on my own. I'ma be the greatest on my name.
I'm coming.